Hello and welcome to MBKM Models. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe and follow for more aircraft documentaries and model build videos. I worked on this aircraft at British Aerospace in Bristol in the early 90s. They were being fitted out to RAF in-flight refuelers. The VC10s I worked on were supers of the ZD series. The Vickers VC10 is a mid-sized, narrow-body long-range British jet airliner designed and built by Vickers-Armstrong Aircraft Limited and first flown at Brooklands in Surrey. In 1962, the airliner was designed to operate on long-distance routes from the short runways of the era and commanded excellent hot and high performance for operations from African airports. The performance of the VC-10 was such that it achieved the fastest crossing of the Atlantic by a subsonic jet airliner of 5 hours and 1 minute, a record that was held for 41 years. Until February 2020 when a British Airways Boeing 747 broke the record at 4 hours 56 minutes due to Storm Ciara. Only the supersonic Concorde was faster. The VC-10 is often compared to the larger Soviet Ilyushin Il-62, the two types being the only airliners to use a rear-engined quad layout. The smaller business jet Lockheed JetStar also has this engine arrangement. Although only a relatively small number of VC-10s were built, they provided long service with BOAC and other airlines from the 1960s to 1981. They were also used from 1965 as strategic air transports for the Royal Air Force, and ex-passenger models and others were used as aerial refueling aircraft. The 50th anniversary of the first flight of the prototype VC-10, GARTA, was celebrated with a VC-10 retrospective symposium and the official opening of a VC-10 exhibition at Brooklands Museum on the 29th of June 2012. The type was retired from RAF service on the 20th of September 2013. It has been succeeded in the aerial refueling role by the Airbus Voyager. VC-10K3ZA147 performed the final flight of the type on the 25th of September 2013. A total of 12 Type 1101 VC-10s were purchased in 1964-65. Followed by 17 Type 1151 Super VC-10s in 1965-69. The VC-10 became an immensely popular aircraft in the BOAC fleet with both passengers and crew, being particularly praised for its comfort and low cabin noise level. BOAC and later British Airways obtained higher load factors with the VC-10 than with the 707 or any other aircraft in its fleet. Operational experience soon resulted in the deletion of the inboard thrust reversers due to continued tailplane buffeting despite the engine repositioning. One BOAC Super VC-10 was lost during the Dawson's Field hijackings in 1970. Ghana Airways ordered 3 VC-10s in January 1961, 2 to be fitted with a cargo door, known as Type 1102. The first was delivered in November 1964 and the second in May 1965. The third was cancelled. Ghana Airways leased one aircraft to Tehran Sat Middle East Airlines MEA that was destroyed at Beirut during an Israeli raid in December 1968. The other was retired from service in 1980. MEA also leased the prototype aircraft that Vickers had kept until 1965 that was leased from Freddie Laker's charter airline. British United Airways BUA ordered 2 Commie versions Type 1103 in 1964, receiving them in October of that year. When BOAC ceased VC-10 operations to South America, BUA took them over, purchasing Ghana Airways' cancelled third aircraft in July 1965 Type 1103. The prototype aircraft was purchased from Vickers BAC by Freddie Laker and converted from Type 1101 to Type 1109 in 1968. It was initially leased to Middle East Airlines but returned to Laker in 1969. This particular aircraft never flew in Laker livery as it was sold on to British United to join their existing fleet. The prototype was damaged beyond economical repair in a landing accident at Gatwick in 1972, and the others were sold in 1973 to 74. One saw further service with Malawi, being retired in 1979, and another was sold to the Sultan of Oman as VIP transport and has been preserved at Brooklands since its retirement in 1987. One aircraft went to the Royal Aircraft Establishment for equipment tests and was retired in 1980. Nigeria Airways had planned to buy two VC-10s but cancelled the order for financial reasons. They leased a BOAC aircraft from 1969. But it was destroyed in a landing accident at Lagos in November of that year. The final VC-10 was one of the 5 Type 1154 Super VC-10s built for East African Airways between 1966 and 1970. Of these, one was destroyed in a takeoff accident at Addis Ababa in 1972, and the other 4 were retired in 1977 and returned to BAC, subsequently being purchased by the RAF after the last aircraft was delivered in February 1970. The production line closed, 54 airframes having been built. The 707 and Douglas DC-8, with their superior operating economics, had encouraged many of the world's smaller airports to extend their runways, thus eliminating the VC-10's main advantage. Marketing overtures were made elsewhere, particularly in Mexico, Argentina, Lebanon, Thailand, Czechoslovakia, and Romania, often fronted by British politicians. The final serious inquiry for VC-10s came from the Chinese CAAC Airlines in 1971. It was confirmed in 1972, but by then the production equipment had been broken up. Czechoslovakia, Romania and China eventually purchased the Ilyushin Il-62. BOAC's successor British Airways BA began retiring their Super VC-10s from transatlantic flights in 1974, mainly due to the 1973 oil crisis, and using them to displace standard VC-10s. 10 of the 11 surviving standard models were retired in 1974 to 75. Of these, 5 were leased to Gulf Air until 1977-78. Then purchased by the RAF. One was leased to the government of Qatar for VIP transport until 1981, when it was purchased by the RAF as an instructional airframe. The government of the United Arab Emirates used another for similar purposes until 1981. It is preserved at Hermscale in Germany. The other 3 were traded into Boeing as partial payment on new aircraft, and were scrapped at Heathrow. The last standard VC-10 in BA service, GARVM, was retained as a standby for the Super VC-10 fleet until 1979. It was preserved at RAF Cosford in the British Airways Museum collection. Its condition deteriorated after BA withdrew funding, being reduced to a fuselage in 2006 before being moved to the Brooklands Museum. Retirement of BA's Super VC-10 fleet began in April 1980 and was completed the following year. After failing to sell them to other operators, British Airways sold 14 of the 15 survivors to the RAF in May 1981. The other went for preservation at Dugsford Aerodrome. The VC-10 served its intended market for only a decade and a half. Written down and amortized by the 1970s, it could have continued in airline service much longer despite its high fuel consumption, but high ground noise levels sealed its fate. Hush kitting the Conways was considered in the late 1970s but was rejected on grounds of cost. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and until next time.